Today we're going to be placing the power steering pump on a Acura TL. This is the V6 3.2 liter. Power steering pump is right here. It's leaking pretty bad out of the front seal. Pretty easy procedure. I'm going to show you guys the tools necessary to get the pump out, install the new pump, and of course the correct fluid to use. And I'm going to show you some tips and tricks along the way to get that job done quickly. So let's get started. I'm going to show you the tools right now that you need to get this job done. Alright, so here are the tools you'll need to do the job. No special tools, no special pullers, just basic hand tools. I got some pliers or some channel locks for the large hose clamps, needle nose pliers, 3/8 drive ratchet, some hose cutters. We're going to need a 10mm deep well socket with a ratchet. I'm using a 1/4" drive ratchet with a 12mm socket. It's used for the lower bolt on the power steering pump. Gonna need a pick to get off the old O-rings. You could use a razor blade or a knife of some sort. As long as you don't mar and scar up the hoses, you're good there. Deep well 12mm socket for the tensioner on the power steering pump. Picked up an inline power steering pump filter. This is recommended by the manufacturer to put this in when you replace the pump. Here's our Master Pro power steering pump from O'Reilly's. Ran about $200, kind of pricey, but we got to do it. Also using a my little impactor here. This is a really nice tool to have. Definitely not necessary, but it helps the job go a little bit quicker. And a 19mm socket on my impact. We're going to use this, and you're going to need this to remove the pulley off of the old pump and put the pulley on the new pump. So let's get started with the first thing. First thing you're going to want to do is remove the engine cover. There are 4 10mm bolts that hold on the cover right there, and right there. That's going to give us a little more access to get to our power steering pump, which is right here. Alright, now that we got the engine cover up, you can see we have a lot more access. We're going to remove the high pressure line, which is right here. There's 2 10mm bolts holding it on, and once you're going to remove that, we're going to see an O-ring underneath. Alright, now that we got those bolts out, go ahead and take your line off, and there's an O-ring right there. Your new pump should come with an O-ring. If it does not, you will need one, because chances are, if it's not already leaking, it will start. So go ahead, take your line and just throw it aside. Second thing is we're going to take the low pressure or the fill hose off. Get yourself some pliers and remove this hose. Careful, because it can be kind of hard and brittle. Try not to break it. Alright, so now that we got both of our hoses off, next thing we're going to want to do is remove the belt. In order to do that, we're going to have to remove some bolts and the tensioner, which is located right here. First bolt I'm going to tackle is right here. It's a 12mm bolt. Go ahead and remove that one. Okay, so next thing we're going to want to do is take your 12mm socket and ratchet, and there's a nut you're going to want to loosen up directly underneath the pump. Go ahead and loosen that up, and when you do, you're going to notice your pump can move. What you're going to do next is take your belt and take it off of the pulley. Okay, so next thing we're going to want to do is take off this 12mm nut. This is a tensioner assembly for the pump, and take off a 10mm bolt. That's right here. That's just going to get this wiring harness out of the way. Alright, once you got all the bolts off, you're free to go ahead and lift the pump up and out. The next thing we're going to need to do is transfer some items from our old pump to our new pump, including the pulley and this little hose, this outlet for the hose. Alright, so first thing, there's one 10mm bolt we're going to have to remove to get this outlet off. Once we do, we're going to want to change the O-ring that's on the outlet. Alright, so we got the outlet off, and as you can see on the back side, there is an O-ring. Go ahead, take your little prying tool, or you could use a razor blade very carefully. Remove that O-ring. With your new pump, should come with an O-ring. It's going to be the smaller of the two. Throw it back on, and throw it onto your new pump, and make sure to tighten down that 10mm bolt. Okay, so the next thing we're going to need to do is to take this nut off of the pulley, and once we do that, we're free to take the pulley and transfer it to our new pump. I'm going to be using my impact with a 19mm socket to do that, or a 3/4" socket will work just as well. Okay, got that swapped over. Last thing we do before we throw it back onto the car is to change out the O-ring on the high pressure side hose, which is right here. The O-ring is supplied with the new pump. Go ahead and take a little blade or pick and pick that out, and definitely change that before we seal it back up. Alright, so now that we got all of our old parts swapped onto our new pump, we're free to put our new pump back on. One little tip for you, make sure you get this bottom hole over the stud, which is located right here, so with one hand you can actually guide the stud through the pump. Alright, so we got everything bolted back together, got the new pump on, got the pulley on, pretty much reverse procedure. Last step is I'm going to add an inline filter. I'll show you how to do that. Basically, you take the large hose that's going to the pump from the reservoir, and we're going to find a nice place to cut it where it's straight. I think right here is a good place. I'm going to go ahead and make a cut here, and then I'll show you the way that we're going to install the inline filter. Alright, so as you can see, we got our hose cut, and I'm going to install this filter. What you're going to notice is that there's a flow indicator with an arrow on it of which way the flow should be going. So the arrow should always be pointing towards the pump. So I'm going to get in here. I already installed my hose clamp for this side, and I'm going to install the filter into this side of the line. Alright, so I went ahead and put the other side of the hose on. Make sure your clamps are nice and tight. Double check all your bolts, your tensioner. Make sure that bolt's back in its place, that holds on your wiring harness. And now we're pretty much good to add fluid into the system and bleed the system, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. One quick note, you must use Honda power steering fluid. You'll notice that your manufacturer will give you a note indicating that only Honda fluid should be used with this pump. This is a remanufactured pump, by the way. So just a general note, you must use Honda power steering fluid on this power steering pump. Alright, so now let's go ahead and bleed the system. What you're going to want to do is fill up the reservoir and start the vehicle. Make sure your cap is on when the vehicle is started. Alright, so once your reservoir is full, go ahead and start your vehicle and turn your wheel 2 or 3 times. Okay, once you're done with that, go ahead and shut it off and let's recheck the reservoir. Okay, so our reservoir is now empty now that the vehicle is run. Let's go ahead and fill it back up and repeat that step. So as you can see, our reservoir is empty again. We're going to need to add more fluid and start it back up and keep turning the wheel to get all the air out. Alright, so about 2 or 3 times of adding fluid and turning the wheel, your fluid should look nice and clear. It shouldn't have any bubbles in it, and your pump should not be making any more noise. So don't be alarmed if at first it does. It's just the air is still in the system and it takes a little bit to get worked out. So what I like to do now is just let the vehicle run, check for leaks. The last thing you want is a new leak from all this work that we've done. I hope this video has helped you guys out. If it has, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to leave something in the comment section. If you do something differently, let me know, and thanks for watching. Take care, guys.